and hopefully we'll get this one recorded just so that everyone in the working group, as well as any other members, can sign in and check it out once I upload it to YouTube on a private channel. So thank you guys for joining us here today. Actually, I say us, but it's just me. So we've got, right now we've got on the line, we've got Kelly on the line. She signed on to Webex, but she didn't have a headset, so she signed on to the teleconference for audio. And we've got Caitlin and Marie-Eve and Tina. And it looks like we've got Angela. Angela, can you hear me okay?
Yes, hi, we can hear you. We've got Rosa and Denise here as well.
Okay, fantastic. Thanks for joining us. Okay, so I'm just writing down a attendance list here so that I can keep track. Okay, excellent. So let's get started here just so that, you know, if I've missed anything, you guys have sent me emails over the last few weeks about what some of your tips and tricks are, but just in case I've missed something, I wanted to give you the opportunity as well to chime in on some of these aspects here. So basically, the idea behind this is that you remember I sent around an email several weeks ago asking you guys about how much time you spend on stats, and it ranged from one person stating that they spent about 30 hours per month on stats to another person saying they spent about 2 hours in total. So I figured, okay, well, clearly there's some efficiencies that can be made here. Some of it is just a learning curve where you learn what you need to fill out and what you don't. But other parts are some little tools that we might be able to share with each other just to speed things up in efficiencies. So that's what this session is about. So basically, I've broken it down the same way as I broke down the email about tips and tricks that you guys have. So the first slide is about ways to make it more efficient in terms of gathering the stats for the Veteran Family Program. So you can see at the top, all of these slides follow the same format in terms of the top in the light blue, you've got the title, basically the topic, and then in large font below that, you've got sort of the key message, right? So one of the key items that came up from a number of you guys, the Veteran Family Coordinators, was that you found that printing out a copy of the form or having your own type of form and filling it out as you go through the day is a lot more effective than waiting until the end of the month. So you can see below that I've got sort of an explanation of some of the key tips that came from you guys. So the first one is just print out a copy of the stats form and update them as the day occurs. And Esquimalt actually mentioned that this is way more effective versus trying to transfer case notes and weekly, monthly actions onto the stat sheet afterwards. And Valcartier also mentioned I created a spreadsheet where I gather all my stats as soon as I have them. So basically, this seems to be a common way to make it a little bit more efficient. Another thing I've heard from coordinators is Control F. So actually, at this point, I'm going to see if I can call up the document here. Just bear with me for a second, because I want to be able to share the mandatory document with you guys and show you exactly what I mean by that. So this is a slightly new version of Webex, as you've probably seen. So I'm hoping that it has about the same commands here. So Control F. So you guys should all be able to see my desktop at this point. This is a newer version of the mandatory stats that I'll be sending out hopefully on Monday, as long as I get the translation back by then. It's the updates are just updates from you guys, basically telling me, you know what, this definition is not quite right, or can you add this, or you've made your own additions to the ones that you've sent in. So I've tried to incorporate those into the latest one. Now, so Control F. Actually, just before we do that, hang on a second, I'm going to see if I can see where participants, here we go. So can you give me check mark if you can see my desktop. In terms of the mandatory MFRC reporting stats, check mark is down in the bottom left-hand side. I just want to make sure you can see it okay.
I can see it, but I can't see the check mark, but I can see the document.
Okay. Oh, I see. Okay, you guys have had the same screen as I do, where you have to go up to the top and click on participants in order to have the. So maybe if you just, yeah, if you're having trouble reaching the check mark, just unmute yourself and then say yes, you can see it. Okay, so Caitlin and Tina, see it? Nayez?
Yes.
Yep, perfect, and Angela as well. Perfect. Okay, just want to make sure we're all looking at the same thing. So basically, if you press Control F, what you do while you're in the mandatory stats document, it's basically it's a find and replace function. And then if, for instance, I want to find the, so just to access the referrals section, then I press Control F and type in referrals and click on Find Next. And that takes me down to some of the explanation that mention referrals, but also it takes me to info referral and number of referrals to community services. So it's a quick way of, rather than having to scroll page after page after page and stuff like that, where does referrals fall and is it after this workshop and that kind of stuff, the Control F function just sometimes helps you navigate the document a little bit easier, so you can find referrals or case administration or any of that kind of stuff, right? Promotions and that, you can just type it in the Control F box and skip down to that part of the document. So just switching back to the presentation here. Actually, out of curiosity, how many of you were already aware of the Control F function? Just give me a check mark, sorry. Okay, cool. So yeah, you guys are pretty well versed with Word and Excel and stuff like that. But I just wanted to make sure that you know that I actually find that a really easy way to navigate the document. The last tip was creation of support documents. So North Bay mentioned that they've created several docs to assist themselves and other members of their staff with collecting information, including sheets for the intake, walk-in phone inquiry, monthly tally sheet, and a visit summary. Now, just so that you know, I've also uploaded a sample intake form to the Veteran Family Program website. So feel free to use that or use it and amend it. I've uploaded it in Word format just so that you can amend it however you see fit. But that may be a useful way of just creating those support documents that will make it a lot more efficient, especially for other staff to fill out stuff. Now, were there any? A lot of you provided some excellent feedback. Now, I haven't gone through the whole thing. I haven't mentioned all of the feedback, but did you guys have any other things to mention prior to us moving to the next section? No questions. So, and feel free to put up your hand if you have a question while I'm talking away here. Okay, so now I'm just going to check my audio status here. Okay, perfect. Because for some reason this microphone likes to switch itself off. Okay, so the next part of the tips and tricks is getting stats promptly from other staff. This is a key problem for a lot of coordinators. And so a lot of you mentioned that sending reminders to the staff and also finding a method that the staff are comfortable with in reporting the stats seem to be important ways to get them more promptly from your other MFRC staff. So in terms of sending reminders to the staff, Esquimalt mentioned that staff who don't respond, she consults individually and ensures that their sections are filled out. And Just looking through my notes here to make sure I don't miss anything. And North Bay mentioned that that you send reminders prior to due dates, and anytime a staff mentions something about a veteran calling, I remind them to record it on the phone inquiry sheet. And again, this is it's much more efficient if they just have the document on their desktop or something like that, and they can enter it in as they go, rather than having to wait till the end of the month to try to figure out, okay, on Monday, first Monday of the month, but how many did I see? It's a lot easier just to have an ongoing list that you can fill in. Have the ED send your executive director send an email. A lot of coordinators have found this useful, which is why I actually mentioned it at the working group meeting last November, the end of November. North Bay noted that their ED sent an email outlining the requirement and deadline for the stat submission. So, for example, and I'm not talking about an email in terms of you're in trouble email. I'm talking about explaining to staff why it's important, right? Because in the realm of all the things that all of us have to do on a daily basis, unless we're convinced that this is an important task, things are going to fall to the bottom, right, in terms of priorities. So this is more an email about showing them why this is important. So the ED could explain that, first of all, the stats help to determine how much and why veteran families are using the services. It shows Family Services, VAC, and Treasury Board, who's currently being approached by VAC, the amount of work being done for veteran families. And never forget, the Treasury Board is full of accountants, and they love their numbers. So, so having the quantitative stats is really important to them. And also, the stats can be used when approaching other funding sources, right? Like the stats that you gather for this program show how effective you are in your job, how effective you are in communicating out to veteran families, what kind of services you're offering, how many contacts you have. Because if you just report a caseload of, let's say, 18 cases, that's not nearly as impressive as saying, well, actually, each one of those 18 cases contacted me 5 times this month. Right, so you can use these stats to just basically show other funders the good work that you're doing at the local level. Lastly, find a method that staff are comfortable with. So, Cartier, you mentioned that I first met with my colleagues to find out what fits with their reality. Some of my colleagues decided to use the Excel sheet that I created, while others chose to fill in their own tables or just send me their stats by email. So just basically working with the staff to figure out what are you most comfortable with, and what would be the best way and the most efficient way for you to send me these stats, whether or not it's maybe over the phone or just having them send it by email. Any other any questions or comments or ideas around this one? Kelly on the phone?
No, I'm good.
Nope, you're good? Okay. All right. So moving on here. So what about explaining the rationale? So this seemed to be another key element. If staff are going to be interested in this and actually get back to you promptly for stats, they're going to have to understand why do we need these stats, and what's the process in that. And you guys noted that one of the key elements to getting staff on board and explaining the rationale is making a clear connection between stats and the success of the coordinators programs. And I'm talking about coordinators, all MFRC coordinators. So, for instance, one way that you can do this is just by noting that the more a program is used by veterans and their families, and this is tracked by the stats that they give you, the more it demonstrates a need for funds to support it, right? Because if you're approaching any funder these days, whether or not it's Family Services, United Way, anyone, they're all asking for stats to demonstrate the need for funds. What is your uptake in the community of the programs and services that you're offering? So the more that we present these stats accurately, the better better you guys can represent this to ourselves as well as other funders. And stats help us to understand the community needs a little bit better. So hopefully it will help you in terms of understanding your programs. What programs are getting the most uptake and what are getting the least? Because sometimes, I mean, anecdotally we know, okay, that program, even though the client population asked for it, no one showed up, so that didn't work well. Even though we know that kind of stuff off the top of our head, looking at the stats can actually provide us with a little bit more of a clue in terms of, you know what, this program seems to be getting a lot more uptake from parents of veterans than it does from spouses of veterans, even though it's intended for spouses. So maybe we should look at somehow tailoring it towards that population. So one of you mentioned in a pilot, stats are critical to show us the needs of veterans and their families so that we can adapt and expand the program where needed. And actually, I just wanted to read out one of the quotes. I explained to my colleagues that considering this is a pilot, the stats are really important to help understand the needs of veterans and their families in order for the Veteran Family Program to continue in the long term, to be further developed, and to be adapted to those specific needs. Reporting our monthly stats is the best way for us to make sure our community's needs are understood and taken into account for further development of the program. So that saying those kinds of things can sometimes just reinforce for people that, no, this is not just a make-work project. These stats are used and they are really necessary for us. Okay, so what about this aspect in terms of explaining rationale? How are you guys feeling about that? Any comments or questions or concerns? I don't see any microphones going off. Okay. Well, actually, just to get your input, because I'm getting tired of just hearing my own voice. Let's ask a question at this point. So, how many of you guys have struggled? Please put a check mark if you have struggled in the past with explaining the rationale or process or purpose of the stats. Kelly, you've got a check mark there. Marie-Ève?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yeah, well, I had to, yes, I experienced some struggle at the beginning of the program, and it's also sometimes a little bit hard when stats, when the report changes and when we have to gather some new data, and I have to go back to my coworkers and ask them to gather new data or you know, stuff like that. But when it happens, I start over again explaining all the rationale of how it's important to gather those stats, and
right.
And it's okay. And sometimes I ask my director to help me with this rationale, just to make sure that everyone is on the same page. But yeah, it happened a couple of times in the last year.
Yeah, and some people, I've heard at the local level, some people get their backs up a little bit in terms of, why am I reporting to the Veteran Family Coordinator with these stats? Isn't it usually the ED's job and stuff like that? So sometimes the ED can help just sort of explain things in terms of, this is not about reporting structure or about organizational chart. This is about the Veteran Family Coordinator as the point of contact for military family services to receive those stats. So they're just the point person, right, to receive all these stats, and they're also the individual who's predominantly tasked with serving veteran families through the Veteran Family Pilot. So sometimes that can be alleviated through the ED's interactions as well. Mm-hmm. Okay, cool, excellent. Thanks, Marie-Ève. Okay, so in terms of the next one, so tools that are useful in speeding up monthly stats. So what would those be? So really, a key one here was book 2 to 3 hours in your calendar to compile the data a few days before the stats are due. So that was a popular one, and that ensures that you're not scrambling the day of or hours before you need to submit them. Excuse me. But another one is actually filling out things by hand, because a lot of people find that a lot easier. So for instance, in North Bay, they noted that they fill it out by hand first as they go through the files and other coordinator stats before they enter it electronically and submit it. And then in Valcartier, it's mentioned as well that you can verify your numbers by putting your data in an Excel spreadsheet prior to handing them in. So that's what I mean about doing it by hand. Some people find that speeds up things quite a bit, because that way you just feel a little bit more safe about reporting on sums and that. And actually, while we're on the topic of sums, just to change gears a little bit, I wanted to ask your feedback on the document, because 2 days ago from Shiloh MFRC, or was it Shiloh, or was it, maybe it was you, Kelly, that mentioned about the sum part at the beginning of the document?
That was me.
Yeah, okay. So I'm going to ask you guys, actually, so you can unmute your mics as well. This section here, excuse me, is basically a sum of a lot of the sections below, right? In terms of total number of clients served, out of the total, new clients served, total number of contacts in each section, transitioning, veteran family program, and outside of veteran family program. Now, would you guys welcome me just eliminating that table? I mean, I know that you probably welcome any reductions to this sheet, but I just wanted to check with you and see how you feel about me removing that table, because basically that's a sum table, and so rather than asking you guys to complete the sums yourselves, what I can do is set up formulas within my own monster spreadsheet and just do the sum totals myself. And that way you won't have to fill out that table, because I understand that you guys sometimes struggle with what do we include in the sum and what do we not include in that kind of stuff. So
the only question I have before you do that,
yeah,
I thought about this after we talked yesterday, and it could be that I'm not putting stuff in the right place, but all of my client contacts,
yeah,
there's no place to put those down in file management.
Okay.
So maybe I'm supposed to be putting them somewhere else in the document, but I've been putting them up there.
Okay. Okay.
So where should I be putting those client contacts?
Your client contacts. So
my substantive contacts, as we discussed yesterday.
Right. Yeah. So hang on a sec. Let's
go down to where the file management is. There's no place there, I don't think. So like some of my client contacts fall within the other parts of the document, but some of them don't. Some of the things that I'm doing.
Oops. Like that's working. There we go. Okay. There's the table here. Okay, so we're down here. Number of clients. Oops, we're down there.
So let's say I have a client that I count as a client, and I met with him 3 times in the month of December because I was helping him with something.
Mm-hmm.
Where do I put those 3 contacts?
So those 3 contacts could fall under any of the ones up above in terms of if it's more of a mental health issue, it would be personal growth and development. If it's info and referral, it could fall in there.
Okay. Okay.
Does that make sense?
That makes sense.
Yeah, because that way we don't have, as much as possible, there's no sort of duplication.
Yeah, but then I know I'm asking questions at the
Yep, no worries. Yeah.
And let's say I take that client and I'm doing, I don't know, helping him fill out a form.
Yeah.
So I'm doing information referral, we'll say that.
Yeah.
I put him under my clients down here, but do I also put him as a client up top as well?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah,
And
because
under information and referral, I put him there as a client, and I also put him in here.
that's right.
File management.
Yeah, because it's two separate subjects, right? One is how much is that particular service being offered in terms of info or referral, and then the other subject is what do your case files look like? What does your caseload look like?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
I have a question about
Sure.
the sum part as well.
Okay.
So if I have a new client, which means it's the first time I've met with them that month, and
Yeah.
I provide info and referral. So under that section, I'm putting in I have one new client, for example.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
let's say that that person in the same month went to, I don't know, a parenting workshop.
Right.
So that person is also being calculated as a new client in that section.
Yeah.
So if we're taking those two sections and adding them up to put them on the first page, it looks like there's 2 new clients that month. However, there was only 1 new client.
I know, and that's always been the problem with tracking total number of clients. So if I remove the table, what I'd probably have to, yeah, I'd have to verify the numbers with you guys, so maybe it would end up being as much work anyway. But really, that's why I've tried to reinforce with back that let's focus less on number of clients, which is always going to be a less accurate number, because no matter how good a system we have, a database we have, we're always going to have some duplication and people who fly under the radar. So we're going to have either underreporting or overreporting in number of clients. And also, number of clients doesn't speak to the actual burden of effort, because like we all know, one client can absorb most of your day with numerous phone calls and stuff like that. So the number of contacts is a better reflection of the burden of effort to serve those clients.
I agree. I guess the reason why I bring it up is because for the last 2 months, I probably have been filling out that section inconsistently, because so for one time I'll say, well, no, I know I didn't actually have 2 clients, so I'll change it to 1. Yeah. And then the next time I might think to myself, no, they're asking for the sum, so I'm going to have to just put the sum for the purpose of the document, right? So I'm not consistently capturing it one way or another, and that's the reason I bring it up, is because it makes it inconsistent, right?
Yeah, yeah, and it's I don't think we're ever going to get around that. It's the same thing with the MFRC service delivery stats, calculating number of family members served. It's just so difficult when you're moving across service categories and trying to maintain confidentiality and whatnot. It becomes a total nightmare. So I might move towards, I'll see whether or not VAC can accept the idea that total number of clients served is always going to be an inaccurate number. So why don't we just focus on the case management numbers for the veteran family coordinators, and then total number of contacts. I don't know if they'll go for that though, because they often want to know about total number of clients. But I'll propose it to VAC and see what they think.
Or perhaps there might be another workaround. There might be another way of capturing that more accurately.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the only way I could think of initially was to do this, right? Have a table at the top where you guys can actually say, okay, yeah, we've got three new clients in 3 separate workshops, but actually it's only 1 client overall who's accessing 3 workshops. So basically, you guys use your discretion and your knowledge of the service delivery to make those stats more accurate. Okay.
If I may, John?
Right. Pardon me?
Yes, I just have something.
Sure.
If in the end the decision is to continue with this table, I actually on my Excel spreadsheet that I built, I took the liberty to put all the formulas so it calculates itself. Yeah. So if anybody would need it, it would be a pleasure for me to share it with you all.
Yeah. Okay. Excellent. Thank you very much. And I'm sure that would be most appreciated, even if it's just a reference. So if you could share that around by email to all people, including myself, then
Sure.
that would be really, really helpful. So it's just it's a sum of the various workshops and whatnot?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It sums all the tables below with regards to welcome community orientation, info referral, employment, education, and all that. Yeah. Up until other the table named other services or workshops.
Right. Okay. Okay, excellent. Yeah, so, and that's what I'll probably do in my spreadsheet as well. Certainly if we eliminate this, this table. I just wanted to ask you guys what you think about that, because that was a recent suggestion. Okay, so what about tips and tricks in terms of troubleshooting? So basically the key message here from you guys and from me, based on my experience, is just try to keep it simple wherever possible, right? So for instance, with Shiloh MFRC on Tuesday, a lot of them had the question, so how do we ask a family, if they're a veteran family, without sounding like we're gatekeepers, without sounding like, you know, we're trying to turn them away if they aren't part of our client population? And basically what I say to that is that when in doubt, serve the family, and this kind of information, getting this kind of information should never be in the form of I'm looking to turn you away if you don't fulfill our criteria. You'll often get that information in the course of a conversation with a family when you're trying to find out how you can help them. So you might, the conversation might start, you know, how can I help you? How you doing today? And stuff like that. And then in the course of the conversation, a lot of the time they'll reveal aspects about what they're going through that indicate to you, yes, this person is transitioning out of the forces, or they're a veteran family, and that kind of stuff. So just do your best. It's never going to be 100% accurate, but do your best to try to find out that info. Just to let you know, Family Information Line also goes through this issue, because Family Information Line doesn't want to start every call with, so what's your status, you know, where do you fall in terms of the family structure and all this kind of stuff, right? So they as much as possible, gather that info through the average discussion, right? I sometimes work casually for Family Information Line, and I can tell you that the majority of conversations work out such that we know pretty much by the end of the conversation who the client is, who they're concerned about, what their status is, and stuff like that. So we just fill out the stats as best we can. Another way of approaching that conversation is just to say, if you're, just to let you know, if you're a medically released veteran family, let us know, since we have specific services we can offer. And that way the person, even though they might not want to mention that in front of other people, especially their peers in that, they might come up to you afterwards and say, so you were mentioning about services, what kind of services are you talking about? Or you can mention something like, is your family in the midst of transitioning out of the forces? We have a veteran family coordinator who can assist with that. So these kinds of things will just help to improve your stats and help you to get some of the people who currently we know are flying under the radar are being served, are veteran families, but haven't actually told you as such. Another problem issue is stats are taking too long. So wherever possible, trying to keep it simple using the templates on the web. I'm always putting up new templates that I find, including the intake and evaluation one, but also, Marie-Ève, I think you were going to send around some of your templates and stuff like that, so I might upload those just for your info. Because wherever possible, we got to try to lean on each other in terms of learning from each other and using the most efficient way possible to gather the stats. And also I put down here, this was actually copy and paste from the Shiloh MFRC PowerPoint. We'll also be currently recording the tips and tricks for completing VFP stats. since some of the VFCs only spend a few hours per month gathering the stats and might have some tips to share. And then the last one was, what about issues of confusion around the Veteran Family Program? And this is often related to other staff rather than yourselves who are very familiar with the program by now. So basically, I just advise them to read through the guidance documents and also check out the videos, because sometimes the way I explain it or the way it's explained in documents is just not as resonant as when somebody watches a video of you guys sort of talking about your average case and stuff like that. And I put up all the videos where the audio is working on the website there, on the same web page that we've been looking at forever. So, and the last slide was resources. So all the resources are still on the website, and that includes the guidance document or the mandatory stats document, whatever you want to call it. The videos, like I was talking about, from September and November, and this one as well. Templates, including the intake and evaluation templates, a data dictionary that goes over some of the terms that are used. So if that's useful for some of the staff in your MFRC, feel free to use that as well. And it's all on the web page at the bottom there. You can always find that info there. So now it's your turn. So what do you guys have any other things that you found are useful for working with staff or making it more efficient? Any templates that you want to share beyond what we've already discussed? I hear crickets. I'm going to turn on the mics. Oh, okay, Angela. Yeah.
Oh. Hi, so I have a couple of questions.
Okay.
The first one was under administration.
Yeah.
I was hoping you could go under for creation of materials, marketing materials, what specifically we're looking for. Do you want to know how many posters did I print? Are we talking flyers? Are we, you know, do you want to know individual numbers? Like this month I printed 50 and 17 were picked up. Like how specific are we getting here with this?
Okay. So basically this is what we're looking to do as much as possible is to find out how much info are we sending out and how are people hearing about the program and how much people are actually requesting info. So materials pushed out, sometimes that can be 1,000 pamphlets that you sent out to families or that you gave out at a particular community event. So that would be materials pushed out without request because they haven't asked for that. But that's important because that shows your efforts in communicating the purpose of the program and the services they might require. The materials supplied with request are when you have a veteran family say, so I want to find out more about this child care thing. So can you tell me about that? And so you share a pamphlet with them or you share a web link or some other form of information, a newsletter or something like that. So that's where it's been requested. And the reason why we've broken those two down is because materials pushed out without request show your communications efforts, but materials supplied with request actually show the engagement of your families. That shows people who know about some of your services, otherwise they wouldn't have asked about them, and they want to know more. So that shows the engagement of families. So it's kind of two different measures. Does that explain it?
Yeah, I think that'll be tricky to track, but
okay. Yeah, and it's always tricky because you know, you have multiple people sending out multiple things. So just do your best in terms of just asking people, you know, if you sent out anything regarding the Veteran Family Program, then just let me know, you know, or if people have asked for anything that you've sent along to them, then let me know and do your best to gather those stats. Because, and just to let you know, right now the way that the chart looks is that the number of materials being pushed out is in the thousands right now since last October because of the number of pamphlets and all this kind of stuff churned out, which is way more than the amount being requested. And that's pretty normal, right? We send out a whole pile of info out to everyone all families that we know about who this may be relevant to, but only a few people are actually going to take the time to give you a call, send you an email, to request info. So that's a normal take after, but yeah, it's I'm getting those stats on a monthly basis. So just do your best to gather them.
And I think number 2 and number 3 would almost be exactly the same. Whatever no? Okay.
Well, yeah, the creation of materials. So for instance, materials created by the MFRC. So that might be a newsletter that you created. That might be a pamphlet that you created rather than the typical Veteran Family Program pamphlet that you get from us. So that's just to give us an idea of how much work you guys are putting into developing marketing material for the Veteran Family Program. And don't feel the need to prove yourselves in terms of these stats. This is just about tracking. It doesn't matter if it's 0 for several months, right? Because a lot of the time you won't need to make your own marketing material, hopefully. But if you do, then we want to be able to track that so that we know what's being done at the local level.
Jonathan, with that number 2, it talks about VFP funds.
Right.
Most of our stuff that we are creating is not charged to VFP. Where else would we put it? Would we still put it there? It's not VFP funded, it's MFRC funded.
Right. Okay.
Is that funding piece really necessary? I guess would be my question here.
Yeah, you're right. It's more. It would actually be. I'll change the wording of that one to mention number of VFP marketing materials, right?
Yeah.
Created, and then it doesn't matter who the funder is. You're right. That would be a better way of describing it.
Thanks.
Because that way we don't have to worry about who's funding it, right? It's just about tracking how many VFP marketing materials you created at the local level.
Yeah. I have a question too. How is materials supplied with requests? Number of requests for product and information from medically released veterans and the family. How is that measuring? Just based on what you just explained,
yeah.
I'm understanding that that's trying to measure what we're measuring in information and referral. Because I don't ever, to be honest, get anybody calling and asking for marketing materials. So yeah. All of the materials that I would be providing would be pushed out without
yeah.
request.
Yeah.
I have people calling for information all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. And really, this is kind of one way that this can be used is showing us how effective some of our communication blitzes are. So for instance, if we have a huge communication blitz around the Veteran Family Program on CAF Connections, then we want to see whether or not that's reflected in the stats where people are actually asking for info about this. Because really we want to see how effective are our communications out such that people are becoming aware of this and asking for more info. So that's where you're right. A lot of the time you won't have people requesting it, but hopefully if we can saturate the population with enough info or with interesting enough info that's relevant to them, that they'll be asking more. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay. Any other questions? Any other ideas that you guys have about how to make it more efficient or templates that you wanted to share? Okay. All right. Well, I mean, oh, hang on a sec, Caitlin.
Yeah, hi Jonathan.
Hey.
I'm just wondering, I feel like it's sustainable the way it is going right now, just because the numbers are a little bit lower out in Esquimalt, but I'm wondering what's the vision or the plan moving forward with this?
In terms of what, the Veteran Family Program in total?
So in terms of collecting the statistics, this stats document, there was talks of shifting everything again, making it a survey, putting it online. Is there an update for that?
Not so far. There's no changes that I've seen. I think there's still the problem. The issue with the survey is that we always wanted to put it on the survey because MFRCs found that more useful for service delivery stats, right, last year. The problem is that Fluid Survey was wound down by SurveyMonkey, which owned Fluid Survey. And what that meant was all of the material on Fluid Survey was being moved to a US server and therefore would be in contravention of the Canadian Privacy Act because we have to actually house our data in Canada in order to be in compliance with the Privacy Act. So that meant we had to move away from Fluid Surveys. Unfortunately, all the other online survey providers found out about this, that Fluid Surveys was shutting down, and then they jacked up their prices because they knew they'd become more in demand. So, so that's resulted in us having to take longer to figure out what is the best possible option for the least amount of money. So right now I don't have any updates as to who we're going with on that one. The reason why I think that would be more efficient for you guys, why I would move towards that, is because what I'd do is rather than sending you out a 30-page document or having you fill out a 30-page document, it would be a survey which would have some logic in it, in which case, you know, you'd have a question about did you have any veteran family members accessing info and referral? If you click no, it just skips that table altogether and goes to the next section, right? So it's a little bit easier to fill in, I think, through that kind of survey method than it is to go through this wearisome long document.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Angela, you had a question.
Hey, Jonathan, it's Rosa. I would be interested to find out more about the centers that say it only takes them 2 hours. In Edmonton, it sounds like we're a bit of an anomaly. I, as the ED, collect everybody's stats, while the veteran coordinator stats probably maybe is an hour to 2 hours a month. Everybody else included, I'm just wondering, is it a larger center where they're gathering everybody, or is that just the veteran family coordinators? It probably takes me alone an hour to collate everything and come up with the answers. So I'm just a bit more interested in how they're doing that to do only 2 hours a month for a full center.
Yeah.
I'd like to know that too. This is Kelly from Trenton, because I collect everybody's stats for this. Yep. And I spend a heck of a lot more than 2 hours.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely.
Okay. So I'll just say off the bat that basically my understanding was through the use of some of these efficiencies, right? It's become a lot easier in terms of having the individuals fill out their stats on a daily basis in a way that they're comfortable with. Makes it a lot faster for them to submit it. But I was wondering, Caitlin, are you able to respond to part of that about how you're able to find efficiencies in the process?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I forget the total number that I had put down, but I think it also is, it's determined on sort of where the dynamics of the organization and the information that the veteran family coordinator has access to. Myself, I also have connections with the PSI team, so I'm able to access all of that information off of our database, and I just send emails to staff if they've had any interactions with veteran families to email me back. And like I said, our numbers are a little bit lower out here, so if somebody is in contact with a veteran family, they'll just email me directly, and I'll work that out with them one-on-one.
Right.
So I'm not really sure if it's something miraculous that we're doing, or if it's just that the numbers are lower, or yeah, I'm not sure. It sounds like every MFRC is really different in the way that they're trying to collect the information from the other staff. Yeah. So maybe that has something to do with it. I don't know.
Yeah, and I think based on what I've heard from you guys along the way, as well as the non-pilot sites, the centers that find it more efficient basically have trained their staff to gather these stats as a matter of course throughout the day. in some sort of spreadsheet or filling out a paper form that they have, just so that they don't arrive at the end of the month and have to spend hours and hours going through their weeks trying to figure it out. So basically, it's a matter of getting the staff on board with figure out by the end of the day if you've served any veteran families. If you haven't, just let me know. If you have, then let me know who and why and how, sort of thing, by a quick email or whatever, and that makes it a little bit easier for the staff to.
For me, Jonathan.
Yeah.
Can I just add
Sure.
that I think for I capture my stats on a daily basis, and I've so far got the rest of the staff to do the same thing.
Yeah.
But I think the time-consuming part comes into determining what categories those stats fit into and consolidating all of the staff's stats into the document as well as my own. It's not the capturing of the stats per se, it's the consolidating and breaking them into different categories, because there's so many categories to go through. I think that's the lengthy part. I have no problem capturing stats, and I definitely see the rationale. It's just that's what I think the lengthy part is, what I spend so much time on. That's just my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. Does anyone else have that experience as well?
Yes, I'm here.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So Rosa, did that give you a few ideas about how it might be possible to speed things up and make it easier on yourself, since you're the kind of hub?
You know what, the reality is, I think we're doing all of these things already, so it's just probably usage, and as somebody has mentioned, it's determining where it fits, particularly when it's a program outside the Veteran Family Coordinator that is taking time and looking through. So, thanks anyway.
Yeah, and if you do find some things along the way that, oh, you know what, this has been really useful. Like for instance, Kelly was showing me Penelope yesterday, and was really jazzed about how that's going to make things a lot more efficient in terms of summing up some data and stuff like that. So if you do find some tools or tricks along the way that, you know what, this really helped to cut it down from whatever 5 hours to 4 hours for the average staff member, then please do let me know, because that way we can hopefully share that among all the MFRCs as well, and including the non-pilot locations. Okay, did you guys have any other comments or questions or suggestions?
I just have one question.
Sure.
I remember before Rachel left, you guys were talking about some ways we could give you qualitative data.
Right.
And I don't know if I'm wrong, but we didn't hear from this. And I think it's really important that we could be able to give you some of that data. I personally gave you 2 qualitative reports in the last year, hoping it's gonna help in any ways. But still, have you thought of a way we could gather this data?
Yeah, so basically if you look in the evaluation form that I uploaded, because we were, it took a while to develop the evaluation form because we wanted to make sure it was the same as the other ones that are being used in the agency. But the evaluation form kind of gives you a basic structure around offering that qualitative feedback from family members in terms of whether or not it's quotes or testimonials or particular aspects that they found useful. And I got to say that those qualitative aspects are just as important as the quantitative, because yes, quantitative is absolutely important for the people who are accountants and the people who need to request more funding, like VAC of Treasury Board and stuff like that. But what really sticks in people's minds, usually, the take-home message are often the quotes from families, like the testimonials, and that shows the actual impact.
Okay, and also with this qualitative data, can we like I just don't know how to do this, but can we provide you with some interpretation of our data, because sometimes numbers just like what is the word for this? Well, when we give numbers that are not interpreted, it could be seen in one way, but in reality it meant something really different. So would we be able to send you some kind of interpretation of our data?
Absolutely. However whatever is the easiest way for you guys to send me the interpretation of the data. Some people find that easiest just to write it right into the Word document as a different font color, just as a note that this is why these numbers look the way they do and stuff like that. Some people write it in the email that they send me when they attach the mandatory stats document. Other people have actual documents that they've created about qualitative info and stuff. So whatever works best for you in terms of helping me to better interpret those stats, because you're absolutely right. I mean, numbers on a page could be taken many different ways, right? So, and you guys are on the ground, so you know exactly why the numbers played out. You know the nitty-gritty of why the numbers played out the way they did.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
So just to clarify that, so like in December, I don't know if everyone else is feeling this, but my numbers were a lot lower than normal.
Right.
Would that be important to put in, like that we were closed for certain dates and whatever?
Yeah, well, feel free, stuff that occurs to you, and that feel free to mention it, because I'll include that in the sort of interpretation notes when I do the year-end summary. But that was part of also the idea behind gathering the stats on putting together a chart of yearly stats versus just monthly. Because monthly, there's going to be standard fluctuations. We know that with all of our stats, right? You've got the posting period, and you've got the summer period where people are moving back and forth and here and there and off on vacation, and then you've got the September influx, but people are still trying to get their kids into school and stuff. So naturally, the stats are going to go up and down on a monthly basis. So it's actually much more accurate to look at it either quarterly or yearly, which is what we advise back to do.
Okay, thank you.
But we do have to submit monthly stats, which is the reason why we're requesting monthly stats from you guys.
Yep, thanks.
Yep, okay. All right, well, I think I have some people knocking at the door here because I've overstayed my welcome in this little meeting room here at LaBelle. So I'll have to end it here, but if there are any other questions or comments and stuff, feel free to either send me an email, drop me a line, via phone, or whatever works best for you, because hopefully this is just the beginning of the conversation on how we can make things more efficient and take up less of your time filling out these stats so that you can spend more of your time serving the clients. So thank you very much, you guys, for showing up today and for submitting those tips and tricks. Those were excellent feedback. I'm going to put this, once I convert the recording and upload it, I'll put it on the website, and we'll go from there.
Thank you very much.
Thanks very much, folks. Have a great day.
Thank you, too.